And then it says setting up your webinar. So Louis, I think I've clicked go live here, and we'll see when it goes. Redirecting to Facebook Live. All right, I think we're on, Louis, but let me just make.
It says on my screen, webinar is now streaming live on Facebook.
Fantastic. All right, here we are. All right, so here we are back again. This time with Louis Vollebregt and myself, George Kinder, celebrating the golden civilization and their conversations. Louis, if you don't know Louis, those of you who are life planners know Louis. He's a legend in the life planning community. But those of you who don't know him, he from the very first, I met him, it must be over 10 years ago now, Louis, and he took some of the early trainings, and he was in the first 5-day training in the Netherlands, if my memory serves me well. And when I asked who was likely to be interested in becoming a leader in life planning, one hand went up over everybody else's. It towered over everybody else's, as Louis does anyway, and it was Louis. And I remember that moment, and it's been true. He's dedicated to the task, and now he's really the premier life planner. If you want to know life planning, if you want to know the EVOKE process, which is what we do in life planning, he knows it. And he's trained on all the continents where we're training. So he is one other thing to mention here is, in terms of Golden Civilization conversations, is that he was among the very first, might have been the very first person to say, George, why don't you life plan civilization? It works so well with people. Why don't you do it with civilization? So I owe a lot to Louis. It's been a great friendship we've had for now many years. And Louis, I wonder if you could share something about the early days and how you see life planning civilization, how you see that happening.
Yes, thank you, George. I'm humbled by your your praise, and I have to live up to the expectation now. So I'll do my best. Yeah, and coming to your question, well, for the people who don't know, George has written his first books about a process that he's called EVOKE, and it's an acronym for a process of helping people to get to their passion and to be really clear on what it is that you really want to do first. And that EVOKE process has several stages, and the O for obstacles is in the middle, and that's right where it should be. Because in our everyday life, you'll notice, even if you look at your own life, that if there are things that you would love to do, but you haven't been able to deliver those things to yourself, then usually you know your obstacles very well. And as a consequence, you live your obstacles rather than your passion. And by finding your passion first, and with that energy looking at your obstacles, you look at a quite different picture. And it occurred to me, as it must have occurred to George as well. He's giving me praise for it, but I'm pretty sure that he knew that as himself as well. In groups, it's kind of the same way, because we get to a stage where we feel very, very incompetent. So if you look at the big things in the world, the politics and the pollution and everything, and you see things going wrong, you think like, yeah, what can I do about it? I mean, I'm just on my own. I can't change this. And that kind of living your obstacle means that we don't do anything. We just kind of collapse under the weight of the system. And that's a pity, because we together have enormous power to make a better world, and we are also responsible for that world as well. So by starting with passion rather than with your obstacles, you can work in groups as well to think about what is it that we have in common here? What is it that we really want to make work in the world? And I hope it's true that I encourage George to write his great book about this, because it will contribute to a better world for our children's children. and which is really means a lot to me.
Yeah, Louis, tell me more about that and what I mean. The way EVOKE works is we inspire people into a vision that they just simply can't refuse. It's so compelling for them. And as you're talking, you're describing in a way us doing that with civilization. So I'm wondering for you personally, thinking about a golden civilization, whether it's out 100 years or 1,000 generations, what does that golden civilization look like for you? What is so compelling for you that makes you eager to make it happen?
Well, I have the great luxury of being a granddad, and so I have two lovely granddaughters. And if I put it plain and simple, I would say I want to make sure that when I go, I would leave a world that has at least as much potential for them as it had for me. At least.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And that's very touching. And I know being a parent and now being a grandparent, I see so much joy in you whenever you're talking about your engagement with you're playing with, you're being with your grandchildren. Tell me more about that the meaning of that in your life. I mean, this is your life plan in a way, living your life plan. And then connect. I'd like to come back to the golden civilization.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think that our job is really to help people to find out about communication. So what is difficult about communication, and how do we get it to improve in a way that we can help our clients to find out about what really matters to them. And that is quite a task. You can see how people are struggling because we don't get the very, very young people who are still in school, but we get the professionals who are in life planning or in financial planning for quite a couple of decades. And even to them, it's quite difficult to learn how to engage in a way that you get to the meaningful stuff. And I feel that when I am with my grandchildren, you don't have to put in any effort. It's meaningful all the way. I mean that's really what it makes it so powerful, I think.
Yeah.
It's communication straight on.
Wonderful, beautiful. I mean, and it's right in the present moment, which is another theme that you and I have talked about a great deal over the years. And so that theme of meaning and being in the present moment, you know, I read a survey today about what is it that people value most in their work. And is it salary? Is it convenience? Is it what they're doing? And this survey argued that by far the most important factor in people's work is meaning. Is meaning. And we in life planning, we help people design their whole life around what is most meaningful for them. And in that process is exposed those aspects of their lives that are not producing meaning, that are not really, where they're not really present, and with the joy that you're describing. And then we, by looking at what is meaningful, we inspire them to move into the world that brings them delight, meaning, happiness, and freedom. How do you see that happening in a conversation about civilization?
Well, I've had the luxury of being able to have these conversations in different continents. So I've been doing them in the US, I've been doing them in Australia, I've been doing them in Europe. And the beauty of being able to do that in all those places is that you get to understand that there are no differences. Of course, there are many differences, but there are no differences in essence. There might be quite some difference in strategies that people mention that they are pretty convinced about, that they feel that would lead to their essential needs. But then again, the essential needs themselves are pretty similar wherever you go. So if you have this in-depth conversation about what it is that really, and you're gathering all this information from a group, so it's not just one person, it's a group of people starting to think and to converse about what it is that is really so meaningful to them, then those values are very often completely shared. So that means that the things that we're really after aren't really down to a nation or a political party or to a religion. They're much more down to humanity, about what we as human people need. And that makes things pretty simple, doesn't it? Because if we have common needs, there should be a common strategy that would help these common needs come to fruition.
So you've participated now in a number of these conversations, and for the audience who doesn't know what a golden civilization conversation is, it's a group, as Louis is saying, it's a group of people gathering together. It's not just like Louis and me talking about what a golden civilization would be, but it's aimed at action. It's aimed at inspiration and at action. First of all, and so it's a gathering, a formal gathering, and then often a repeated gathering over time, so that the actions and the meaning of those conversations deepen and deepen within the community in which they're given. So I'm curious, Louis, in the conversations that you've experienced, in the groups that you've experienced in Australia and Europe and America, what would you say are the top 5 or 10 elements of that vision of a golden civilization that are common across boundaries, across borders, across nations, across people?
Yeah, I think the most important one that always stands out by far is freedom. People are really attached to their freedom. They want to feel free. And I think there's a difference between being free and feeling free. But feeling free is incredibly high on the list. And the other important one is that they all need to feel that there is enough nourishment, enough food, clean water, clean environment, clean ways to be able to live. And then the next thing that comes up is safety. Because safety is, we all want to feel safe in our direct environment and in our community and in our country and wherever we are. We want to feel safe. We are in a way, of course, all very small and vulnerable beings. So as a group, we stand a chance, but as individuals, it's quite a struggle for life. So this is a pretty high on the list need, if you come to think of it. And then after that, you can see that things like belonging, so belonging to a group and to your own community and feeling that you can earn their esteem it becomes important. And as you think about it, those needs that you then kind of feel quite needlessly follow Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so it's not so strange that they come out. And I think his theory was really very apt.
Yeah, great, Louis. And I just to add a few that I've seen in the ones that I've done overlapping, and they really overlap because when you talk about nourishment, I think about one of the most nourishing things is just kindness in a society. I mean, it's more psychologically nourishing, and the notion of belonging, as you say, and of safety, that engagement where we are, another term is respect and respectful of each other. And we're respectful in a way that's empathic and collaborative. These are all terms that come up. And creative and vitality. So there's also that energy that we find. coming out. And you're absolutely right. Every group tends to have tremendous overlap with all the other groups as to what they care about, what they want. And so maybe the last question, unless you've got some other things you want to add here, is how do you see a golden civilization happening? I mean, the challenge that we put out is, let's do this. Let's do it now, and let's do it within a generation. And as you know, in life planning, the shorter the time frame we make with a powerful vision, the more it energizes people to actually go and make a difference and make something happen. How do you see a golden civilization taking formation in the most efficient and quickest possible way across all of civilization?
I think we either do it or we don't. And when we don't, we'll suffer the consequences. And when we do, we will take the next step in evolution. Because that's really what it looks like to me. Next step in evolution, where we use our brain capacity, both IQ and EQ, to develop ways in which we challenge each other enough to be productive and to make progress, but to do that in a way that is kind of non-violent to others, or even to nature or to Earth, and in that way making our presence on Earth sustainable and meaningful. I think that is where it needs to head. And how do we do it? Because that's the other important question. I think it really starts with daring to believe that it's possible. That is where it needs to start, because as long as we live our obstacles, as long as we start to explain to each other why it is impossible, or why it will be difficult, or why it will be hard, or why whatever, we are living the obstacles and we won't get anywhere. The great leaders in the world always believed in their goals in a way that it was inspiring and engaging. In the way that I see you do that, George. So I really want to encourage you to keep going with that, and to make sure that so many people more can hear about this and can experience what it is, both in the Golden Civilization groups, but maybe also in person, to feel what it means in person. Because I think that those people who feel what it means to live your passion will be great advocates for the work in the Golden Civilization as well. It's incredibly important, I believe, that we start to feel responsible for what happens in the world, and not to shift it to the next generation, or to say, you know what, this is someone else who needs to do it. We need to own our own environment. And I really feel this is the next step in evolution. And usually when there's big change, there's big resistance, and there's some people who would feel challenged by it, but that's all in the game. We need to do it anyway. The stakes are much too high not to.
Beautiful, Louis. And I'm inspired by what you're saying about evolution. I mean, you've used that term again and again, and of course, it's a scientific term, but I think you're talking about a pretty powerful change, perhaps in human nature, as well as in the structures of civilization as we've defined them. Is that not the case?
Absolutely. If you look at evolution has, through all the common theories, arisen by the fact that the species had to compete with each other. But competition, in a way, makes it, creates a lot of waste. It creates the best to be selected, but it creates a lot of waste. And I think we're done with that waste. So we need to find more clever ways to do the next step in evolution. And we have created a lot of brain capacity for that. Now it's time we start to use it.
Yeah, beautiful. And I that's a great place to close, but I want to ask one more question, because you have inspired me. And that's what I was trying to convey when I introduced you. You have inspired me. And I think perhaps the way that you've most inspired me is with your passion about delivering the people that you work with into their lives of freedom. And of course, it starts with your own family and with your, and with all of that. But I'm just wondering, as you're thinking about your contribution now to this evolutionary change, that we feel we're on the cusp of, and will we do it or will we not? What is your commitment? What is your inspiring action that you are making happen in yourself, in the world, and in the communities that you engage with?
Yeah. Well, I'm, as you know, engaged in kind of all of the training all over the world at this moment to make sure that as many people get to learn about life planning, get to understand about life, and get to be enthusiastic about life planning. And I think it's immensely important to have the life planners going through our program, having experienced it themselves, and then to help them to get to golden civilization discussions, because then they will talk from their own passion rather than to just recite something that someone else has invented. I think that is incredibly important, and that is something that you can expect me to do for the coming decade, at least I hope.
Well, thank you, Louis. You've inspired me again, and I know you're going to inspire many others by your passion for this work of bringing people to freedom. I look forward to another conversation sometime soon. Thanks so much, Louis.
It's my pleasure. Always a pleasure to work with you, George.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And good luck.
Thank you.